I match my Google Docs text colors to my fountain pen inks. Does anyone else do that? But more on that later. Hi, I'm Irene, and I've been anticipating this day for a while now. The vast array of inks out there is one of the most appealing aspects about the fountain pen hobby. Pilot is one of the big players in this field with their Iroshizuku line of inks. It's a brand I was hoping to add to my collection at some point. Not least of all because the name is just cool to say, and when you whip it out, people know you mean business. Nobody's going around saying Iroshizuku for the heck of it. Besides me, I mean. Let me know if I'm wrong. Fortunately, this winter was the season of ink gifting. Friends and relatives were very generous, and I'm going to share the joy. Starting with these 2 sample-size bottles containing Kirisame and Inaho. They are care of Sarah from the Sarah Bailey Arts YouTube channel. I really like these bottles. When it comes to ink bottles, I think short and stubby is best. Because I personally identify with that form, yes, but more importantly, a low center of gravity provides stability. That means fewer tipped bottles and spills. You know, those oh shit moments that have your partner rushing into the studio and asking, "What happened now? Is it the X-Acto blade again? Did you slice off a finger this time?" And you have to answer, "No, it's worse. I spilled the ancient copper." This is the standard Apica CD notebook. First up is Kiri-Same. Does that not sound totally edible? Perhaps something sesame flavored. But the name actually translates to drizzle. And I can see that too. The website, Mountain of Ink, is a great resource for ink lovers. I encourage you to check it out. Link is in the description. According to their swatches, Kirisame can show either a warm or a cool tone, depending on the paper used. For the Kirisame writing sample and sketch, I chose the subject, oyster. My first paying job was at a processing plant shucking oysters. I was 18, and when I was hired, I had never eaten an oyster, let alone shucked one. I lasted 2 weeks. Then I was hired at a different processing plant shaking crab. That's right, shaking crab. Hey, the meat's gotta come out somehow. Yep, my teen years were one glamour job after another. But back to oysters. During my young adulthood, I chanced upon a recipe for oyster stew. Even though I'd left the world of seafood shucking and shaking behind me, I thought, maybe I should see if I might actually like oysters. Well, it turned out that, no, I didn't like them, but my older brother, Al, did, and he was happy to pay for the costs involved. Seafood isn't cheap, after all. You'd think that living near the coast would mean cheap and plentiful seafood. Nope, it's expensive here too. So I have some limited experience with cooking oysters. But years later, I had my first fresh grilled oyster in the shell, flavored with its own liquor along with butter and garlic. It was delicious. That's the same with a lot of things, right? Often it comes down to the preparation. You might think you don't like to eat sheep because of a mutton stew you once had that repeated on you, but a gyro with well-seasoned, thinly sliced lamb and tzatziki sauce? Yum! There are quite a few standouts within the Iroshizuku range of inks, and out of all of them, Inaho was the one I coveted the most. And not just because it sort of sounds like Irene-ho. Inaho, Irene-ho, I've heard it both ways. Unfortunately, I've also heard it was recently discontinued. So receiving a bottle of any size was a huge relief. Why does it appeal to me so much? Well, the color is unusual. Sort of a dark yellow or a light brown with just a hint of green, making it seem almost gold-like, but earthy rather than shiny. Yeah, that's it. Dirty, filthy gold. Although the name Inaho translates to ear of rice, the color actually reminds me of Japanese curry. Specifically, the brands of instant curry blocks that I use, S&B's Golden Curry and House Foods Vermont Curry. Usually we go with Golden Curry because it's cheaper, but I actually prefer Vermont Curry and their touch of apple and honey. In my opinion, that little bit of sweetness brings it to 11. I'll share a little secret. Regardless of brand, whenever I open up a box and peel away the seal, I have to spend a good minute simply inhaling the aroma. It's ridiculously amazing. Seriously, I don't understand why it's not an option for room fresheners. I'd choose curry over eucalyptus or lavender any day. To those who've never experienced Japanese curry, it's both delicious and easy. Just buy a box of instant Japanese curry blocks. They come in mild, medium, and hot options. Follow the add water ratios in the directions and add whatever protein and veggies you like. Although potatoes are a traditional component, I omit them. Onions, carrots, mushrooms, and peas are what I like, along with beef, either ground or cubed. It's normally served over rice, but there's no reason you couldn't substitute egg noodles or mashed potatoes. You could even serve it in a bowl like a stew. So many options. The close-ups on this standard Apica notebook paper shows a little bit of feathering with Kirisame and more noticeable feathering with Inaho. I can accept the former, but not the latter. I can't say I was surprised, though, since this isn't the best paper for fountain pen inks. In fact, there's a pricier premium version of this notebook that supposedly performs much better. So remember way back in the beginning when I mentioned matching Google Docs text colors with fountain pen inks? I should probably explain my process for some context. Once I've edited the video footage to my satisfaction, the next step is to write the voiceover. Sure, I could improvise, but I'm the first to admit that's not my strong point. So I open up a Google document, set the zoom to 125% because of vision problems, select my favorite font, Architect's Daughter, set the font size to 14, then choose the text color. Just for funsies, I choose a color that relates to the video in some way. In the case of this video, I went with the color dark yellow number 3. Honestly, I think it's a pretty good match for Inaho. Of course, it's possible to create a custom color, but the whole thing is already bordering on excessive, so I usually opt for a preset that's close enough. The next writing samples take place in a Rhodia reverse book, a Clairefontaine basic notebook, and lastly on Tomoe River paper. On all of those, I detected minimal to no feathering. Yay! I want to mention another part of my video making process that I've been incorporating more recently, and that's handwriting notes on what I want to say, using, of course, a fountain pen. More than the drawing, painting, or swatching, or even the video editing, the writing is what I spend the most time on. Sometimes it comes easily, but sometimes it can take several days. And I found that having a notebook and a pen with me throughout the day makes it easier to get my thoughts down, as opposed to sitting at the computer for hours on end hoping for inspiration to strike. With taking notes ahead of time, I can transfer what's in my notebook to a Google Doc. It still takes rewriting, of course, but I think it works better this way. Just some behind-the-scenes info for those who are interested. Big thanks to Sarah for my first Iroshizuku inks. I've since received other colors from this brand, and those will be featured in future videos. Kirisame is a satisfying shade of gray, and one I intend to compare with Diamine's Earl Grey at some point down the line. I expected to fall in love with Ina Ho, and I was not disappointed. I absolutely adore it. Color-wise, I don't have anything close to it at this time. The tool that was used throughout this session is a kakimori brass nib inserted into a standard nib holder. I only got it a couple of months ago. At first, it felt slightly awkward. Perhaps that's because I wasn't used to handling a nib holder like this, but I've since become quite attached to this nib. It's currently my tool of choice for ink testing and swatching. I'm happy to share some Iroshizuku with you. In my opinion, this Tomoe River paper shows them at their best. Who knew drizzling over an ear of rice could be so delightful? Until next time, maybe give something you don't like another try, such as oysters and curry, just maybe not together. On the other hand, maybe oysters and curry make a killer combination. Tell you what, you try it first, then let me know how it goes. And stay artsy, my friends.